Oh, this just got scary. Okay. Wow, what a difference some paint makes, right? So if you saw my previous video, you'll know this is my bandsaw sawmill that I'm building from scratch. Since last time, I've mounted everything. I finished up the blade guides here, got the wheels mounted, finished up the tensioner, mounted the motor, and built a track for it. So let me show you how I built the track. It's basically just out of 2x8s, and it was just a quick and dirty kind of, prototype test. It works, but it's not going to be like a permanent thing because it's just wood. But let me show you that process real quick. So that was the last thing I had to do before I could take this out and actually try and make some cuts with it. And it kind of worked. And I'll show you that video, but first I got to tell you, there were some mistakes made. One major one that you're going to see in the video, some more subtle things that when we come back here, I'm going to explain. So let's just see how it did. Try it?
Yeah, I guess so. Right. Just start off slow, huh? Is it filming?
No, it's filming. At least to keep it.
Okay, yeah, like almost like a rails. Whoa.
Alright.
Well, at least it didn't fly.
It broke.
Oh, it did?
Oh, maybe it
No, I don't think it broke. I think it just...
I think it bent.
Hot?
No.
No, huh? think there's just too much wobble in the blade as it gets in there, and that's what bogged it down. I think you need a heavier blade for something that size.
Take a closer look. Come on. Should get a get a little broom.
You want a broom?
Ooh,
No.
that looks cool.
Yeah. So I don't like that for some reason. Oh, you're almost there. Yep. Oh, shit.
So close. Oh.
What do I smell? It smells like burning electric. Oh, I think it's the motor.
Oh, you're serious?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Oh, great. Yeah, so almost catching fire is not a good thing for a bandsaw. So obviously, this motor, no good. It's now I see why people don't run less than a few horsepower motors or engines on sawmills that are going to cut a 16-inch plus log. It just doesn't have the power. It had it initially, but this motor, maybe if this was a better quality motor, it wouldn't have heated up and burned up so much, but it did. It got very hot. First, to address this issue, I got this. So this is only a 6.5 horsepower gas engine, but the nice thing about gas engines is you get a lot of horsepower in a small, pretty light package. I was looking at electric motors in the 2 to 3 horsepower range, and they're very heavy. At first, I thought gas engines, putting a lawnmower engine or something equivalent on this would be, well, not only overkill, which now I know it's not, but also it gets complicated. You got to worry about the gas and the oil. It's messy. It's noisy. I wanted something easy, light, clean. You're not going to get that. If you're cutting big logs, it's going to be noisy and messy. So, issue number 1. Issue number 2. My really clever homemade and designed guides here. These aren't terrible, actually, but there's a big problem, and it has to do with the blade that I chose. And you'll see a lot of these problems are interrelated. So, you go to build a machine like this, and you really have to design all the parts to work together, because one design choice is going to affect another, it's going to affect the other, it's a whole thing. So I chose a 1/2-inch blade, and you want 2 to 3 teeth per inch. I got that part right. That seemed to work okay. You want a really coarse tooth blade to cut through wide logs. Thing that I didn't think about is with the more coarse teeth, you get a lot less material behind the tooth. So while this is a 1/2 inch, you don't have a full 1/2 inch back here to run through your guides. And what happens is I could only put one bearing right here to guide the blade, and it's just not a lot of surface area to keep this blade straight when it's cutting through the log. So what happened was it shifted. It tracked. It went through the log, and it went up into the log. And by the end of the cut, it was pulled up and rubbing in the cut on the log, and not cutting straight at all. Problem number 3, the wheels. I saved a few bucks and found 12-inch bandsaw wheels from a Craftsman bandsaw on eBay. These were really cheap, and so I got them for a steal. Not so much of a steal, considering they didn't have the tires, and when you go to buy new tires for these, to get nice urethane ones, you're going to spend like 30 bucks. So in the end, I probably would have been better off buying a set of these that already had decent tires on them. That's not the problem, though. The problem is that these are 12-inch wheels. These are small, right? So you're limited with the kind of bandsaw blades you can put on them. Not so much in the width, it's in the thickness of the blade. I forget the actual, there's a recommendation, you can look it up for what width bandsaw blades you can use for what diameter wheel. Most of these sawmills you see are going to be 18-inch wheels or larger, and that's because when you start getting wider saw blades to work better with guides to keep it straight, the thickness of those saw blades that the manufacturer makes them at are bigger, like they're thicker. So you can't, for instance, find a really thin and wide bandsaw blade. Another issue that compounds this is that you don't necessarily want a super thin bandsaw blade when you're cutting green wood, because as you cut through green wood, the internal stresses are going to possibly close on the blade, and so you actually want a pretty wide kerf or like cutting area from the teeth to allow the blade to go through, so that it doesn't get pinched as it's cutting. So what I should have done when I built this was buy the blades first. The blades were the last thing I bought. I didn't even look to see what was available out there, what the issues were. Yeah, it was dumb. It's really, really dumb. If you're going to buy a saw, buy the saw part first. Buy the blade first. Yeah, so all is not lost. I think I can make this work still, but I need to make it work with what I got, and I need to adjust a few things. First of all, I got to find the widest blade that I can that is thin enough to work on 12-inch wheels. I was able to find 3/4 inch blades that are not too thick. They're still on the thin side at 2 to 3 teeth per inch. And this is going to allow me to put an extra bearing here. So now I have much more area engaged with the blade, and hopefully this will keep this straighter in the cut and it'll wander less. So again, let's just go over all the mistakes I made, right? Motor too small. Putting a gas motor in. Wheels too small. I'm not going to fix it. Hopefully the bandsaw blades that I buy that are thicker, that are 3/4 inch, won't break on these wheels. But we'll see. I'm going to extend these blade guides so that they engage more of this wider bandsaw saw blade. So I'm going to work on that today, and I'm going to post a separate video when I'm done, and I've got this updated with the changes that I mentioned, and we're going to see how it performs. So that'll be next time. Until then, see you guys later.